Welcome to the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay updated with every new story. What in God's name are you doing to my daughter? The scream ripped through the stillness of the East Wing. Madison Harrington stood in the doorway, stunned and furious. 12-year-old Aubrey sat on her bed, pale and streaked with tears, blood staining her white pajama shorts. Kneeling beside her, Elena Rodriguez, 29, calm but concerned, was gently helping the child change into fresh clothes. "What did you do to her?" Madison shrieked, rushing forward. Elena rose quickly. "Mrs. Harrington, please. Aubrey just got her first period. She didn't understand what was happening." "You filthy liar!" Madison barked, grabbing Aubrey and yanking her away. "You disgusting savage, undressing my daughter in the middle of the night. Who the hell do you think you are?" "She was scared," Elena said, trying to keep her voice calm. "She thought she was dying. She asked me to help." But Madison was beyond reason. "I trusted you in my home, and this is how you repay us? Touching my daughter with your filthy hands?" Then crack. Her open palm hit Elena's face with such force that Elena's head snapped sideways. Blood instantly bloomed from her split lip. "Mom, stop!" Aubrey cried out. "She didn't hurt me." Madison ignored her, eyes locked on Elena with venom. "You're finished. Get out." In the doorway, Richard Harrington had appeared. His sharp blue eyes swept the room, the blood on the floor, the scattered pads, Elena's bleeding mouth, his daughter's tear-streaked face. "What the hell happened here?" "She assaulted our daughter," Madison snapped. "She was undressing her when I walked in." "That's not true!" Aubrey yelled. "She was helping me." "She was scared, sir," Elena said through her bloodied lip. "She didn't know it was her period. She needed help." "Are you out of your mind?" Richard growled. "You had no right to lay a hand on our child." "I was trying to protect her dignity," Elena said, barely audible. "She asked me not to tell you." "Pack your things," Richard said coldly. "You're done here." Elena stood frozen, blood dripping slowly down her chin. "Please, I need this job. My aunt's in the hospital. I send her every spare dollar I have." But Madison's voice cut her off. "I don't want to hear one more damn word out of your mouth." Then for the second time, Madison struck her, this time with a closed fist. Elena's vision blurred instantly. She staggered back, knees buckling as dizziness swept over her. Suddenly, she wasn't in the Harrington house anymore. She was 16 again, standing in another mansion. Another little girl, Isabel, 10 years old, quiet and forgotten. Isabel had gotten her first period too, but no one explained. Her parents were away. The nanny was new. Isabel was ashamed, confused, and no one noticed until the morning she jumped from the second-floor balcony. Elena came back to herself, gasping, clinging to the dresser for balance. "Don't fire her," Aubrey sobbed. "Please, she helped me. She didn't do anything wrong." But no one was listening. Outside the room, house staff whispered, "She's bleeding. I knew she'd mess it up someday. You know how they are." Elena wiped her mouth with her uniform sleeve, hands trembling. She turned to Richard and Madison one last time. "You dress her in silk. You send her to the best schools. But when she was bleeding, scared and shaking, where were you?" Neither parent answered. She didn't need a new phone or piano lessons. She needed someone to tell her she wasn't disgusting. And you made her feel that way. They said nothing. Elena turned toward the hallway where the staff parted like water. In the laundry room, she collapsed onto the bench. Her phone buzzed. "Nurse Gloria. Your aunt's condition is worsening. We need to begin second-phase treatment immediately. Total cost will be $3,800. Ellen closed her eyes, blood still on her lip. No job, no money, no home. But she still had one thing left to do. That night, under cover of darkness, Elena returned to Aubrey's room. The child looked up with red eyes and opened arms. Elena sat beside her and placed a pink box on the nightstand. "It's all in here," she said softly. "Everything you need, even chocolate." Aubrey clutched her hand. "Please don't leave." "I have to," Elena whispered. "But you're going to be okay." "Why didn't they believe me?" "Because sometimes adults are scared to admit when they fail their children. But that's not your fault." She leaned forward and gently pressed her forehead to Aubrey's. "You're not broken. You're becoming." As Elena left, she passed the Harringtons sitting in silence in the great room. They didn't look at her, but her words had landed somewhere. For the first time, they had to ask themselves what they were really afraid of. Because blood on silk wasn't the stain. Silence was. Elena stepped out into the autumn night with her suitcase, its wheels clacking against the stone pathway. The massive iron gate loomed like final judgment. Behind her, the house stood quiet, its windows dark, unmoved by the storm it had witnessed. She reached a small corner diner just before midnight. The waitress didn't ask questions, just nodded at the bruise on Elena's cheek and poured her coffee. Elena sat staring at her reflection in the window, seeing not just her face, but Isabel's, the little girl who died at 11 because no one listened. By morning, Elena had made a call to someone she hadn't spoken to in over a year. "Clint, it's Elena. I need work." "Something more private, discreet," Clint grunted. "Old couple needs a housekeeper. Week to week, pays cash." "I'll take it." Back at the Harrington estate, the silence lingered like smoke. Aubrey didn't speak to her parents for 3 days. She stayed in her room, clutching the little pink box Elena had left behind, reading the note over and over. "You are not disgusting. You're transforming." Richard tried to move on quickly, burying himself in work. But sometimes at night he found himself staring at the family photo, realizing he hadn't heard Aubrey laugh in weeks. Madison was more defensive. "She crossed a line," she told herself. But Elena's words echoed. She didn't need a mother who dressed her in designer clothes. It haunted her because deep down she wasn't sure she even knew her daughter. On Thursday night, Elena lay on a cot in a modest apartment above a retired couple's garage. Her phone buzzed. Nurse Gloria. "Good news. A donor just covered the cost of the first round of chemo anonymously." Elena's breath caught. She looked out the window, smiling softly. Sometimes justice doesn't come loud. Sometimes it comes with a whisper. The following week, the atmosphere inside the Harrington estate had shifted. Aubrey was still quiet, still guarded, but something in her had begun to mend. Every evening she wrote in a notebook Elena had gifted her. "What did you feel today?" Downstairs, the staff gossiped less. The cook, Mr. Evans, became noticeably colder toward Madison. Change had seeped in like water through cracks. One Sunday morning, Madison found Richard holding an envelope Elena had left, addressed, "To whom it may concern." He read aloud. "You trusted me with your daughter's mornings and bedtimes, her stories and fears. I gave her my time, my gentleness, my care. I didn't ask for much in return, only that you saw her, truly saw her. Aubrey deserves to become a woman without shame." "I've been thinking," Madison said after a pause, "about what she said, about fear. I've been thinking about what we taught our daughter when we punished the one person who showed her compassion. Maybe it's time we stop repeating the silence." Meanwhile, Elena stood by her aunt's bedside. The machines beeped steadily. "She's stable," Nurse Gloria whispered. "We'll start the chemo tonight." That evening, Elena returned to her garage apartment and opened her notebook. She began to write. "Today, I chose not to disappear. Today I remembered why I stay soft. There is strength in tenderness, even when the world mistakes it for weakness." 2 days later, something unexpected arrived at the Harrington estate. A plain envelope addressed to Aubrey. Inside was a letter and a tiny gold chain with a crescent moon charm. Dear Moonlight Girl, you're stronger than you know. The world may try to shrink you, but don't let it. Be messy, be loud, be quiet, be you, and never be ashamed of your body. It's yours, it's sacred. Keep growing, always rooting for you, E. Aubrey wore the necklace every day after that. A week later, Richard made a call to a community center downtown. My name is Richard Harrington. I'd like to sponsor a girls' health program. Workshops, education, access. The next day, Madison emailed Aubrey's school asking about creating emotional education curriculum. That night, Aubrey stood in the hallway staring at the family portrait. She touched the charm on her necklace. "Can we take a new picture?" she asked. "This one doesn't feel like us anymore." Elsewhere, in her quiet room, Elena sat by the window watching the moonrise. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "She wears it every day. Thought you'd want to know." Elena smiled. She didn't reply. She leaned back and closed her eyes, letting the silence hold her, not like punishment, but like peace. For the first time in years, the silence was hers. Autumn settled deeper, painting the trees in amber and rust. At the Whitakers, Elena had fallen into a quiet rhythm. One Saturday morning, Mr. Whitaker handed her a letter. No return address. "Dear Elena, I don't know if this will reach you, but I wanted to try. I owe you more than an apology. You were the only one in that house who saw my daughter clearly. You deserved better. Aubrey deserved better. There's a dinner next Friday. Just us, just family. I hope you'll come. Not as a servant, as a guest. With regret and hope, Madison." Friday arrived under soft clouds. Elena stood in front of the mirror, brushing her modest navy dress. Mrs. Whitaker handed her a silver necklace. "From my first proper job interview. Thought you might want something to hold on to tonight." The butler greeted her. "Miss Rodriguez, welcome back." Miss Rodriguez, not the help. Richard met her in the foyer. "Elena, thank you for coming." They entered the dining room. The scene was simple. Wooden name cards, cloth napkins, and an empty seat at the head opposite Richard. A seat for Elena. Aubrey beamed when she saw Elena. Madison stood nervously behind her chair. "Elena, thank you for accepting our invitation." "I almost didn't," Elena replied honestly. "But then I thought about Aubrey." The meal began slowly. Over dessert, Aubrey asked, "Elena, can I visit your aunt with you sometime?" "Why?" "Because you were there for me, and maybe I can be there for someone too." Elena's throat tightened. She nodded. She'd like that. Later, Madison walked Elena to the door. "I don't expect us to become friends, but I hope this can be a beginning." Elena considered her. "I don't need a beginning, but I'll accept a better ending." The following Monday, Elena returned to work with the Whitakers, but something had shifted. She found herself humming while sweeping, sleeping better. That week, she mailed a volunteer application to the community center downtown. When the coordinator called back, she said, "We're looking for women like you, women who've been through fire and still choose kindness." Elena smiled into the phone. "Then I'm yours." Across town, a group of teenage girls sat in a circle holding journals. A new program had begun, funded by the Harrington Foundations, inspired by a story that was once almost silenced. Every Tuesday, they gathered to write, to speak, and to bleed in ways the world had told them to hide. On the whiteboard above them were 3 words in red ink: tender, brave, unbroken. And sometimes that's enough. The air was crisp that morning as Elena stood at the bus stop outside the hospital. Aunt Delilah had finished her 3rd round of chemotherapy. Her body was weak, her hair thinner, but her spirit glowed brighter. "I'm not leaving you just yet," she had whispered. God still has gossip to hear from me. Elena's phone buzzed. Aubrey. Hey, Mom says I can visit your aunt next week. Is that okay? I got her a scarf. Hope she likes blue. Elena typed back. She loves blue, especially on brave girls. A minute later. I'm doing my school project on women who change the world. I picked you. Elena closed her eyes, tears coming without warning. You hear that, Delilah? She whispered to the wind. Your niece is changing the world. That evening, Elena visited the community center for the first time as a volunteer. In the main hall, teenage girls sat in a circle. Gloria introduced her. Ladies, this is Elena Rodriguez. She'll be joining us each Thursday. A girl with box braids raised her hand. Is it true you used to work for rich people? Elena grinned. It's true. I folded more silk pajamas than I care to admit. Why'd you stop? Elena looked around at the young eyes watching her. Because someone needed to learn how to be a mother, and someone else needed to remember she was a daughter. For the next hour, they wrote. Then they read their words aloud, some shaky, some angry, some beautifully broken, but all of it true. Elena realized she wasn't healing alone anymore. She was healing with others. Later that night, walking home beneath street lamps, Elena passed a bench where a man sat hunched over. She almost kept walking. Almost. Sir, are you all right? He looked up, weathered face, bloodshot eyes. Lost my job last week. Wife left before that. I got nothing left. Elena sat beside him. I felt like that too. A woman like you, I doubt it. She smiled sadly. I was homeless once. Got fired from a place I gave everything to. Was blamed for something I didn't do. She reached into her bag, pulled out a granola bar and a $5 bill. It's not much, but it's enough for a hot drink. He took it slowly. Thank you. We're never as alone as we think. That night, Elena lit a candle and opened her journal. Today I gave what little I had to someone who needed it more. Maybe healing isn't about getting back what you lost. Maybe it's about giving away what you've gained. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm becoming. It was a quiet Sunday when Elena received the email that would change everything. She was going over volunteer notes when the notification pinged. Subject: Speaking Opportunity, Women's Voices Summit. Elena, the statewide Women's Voices Summit is looking for keynote speakers. I submitted your name. Theme: The Strength of Softness. Think about it. Gloria. Elena stared at the screen. Her, a former housekeeper. What did she have to offer? She clicked reply. Yes, I'll do it. The ceremony was held in a repurposed train station. Elena arrived early, her name badge pinned carefully over her chest. Backstage, she stood before the mirror, breathing deeply. The host introduced her. Our next speaker embodies the heart of this summit's mission, a woman whose quiet courage has changed more lives than she knows. Please welcome Elena Rodriguez. Elena stepped onto the stage, blinded momentarily by lights, then focused on the rows of faces. She took a breath and began. When I was 8 years old, I watched my mother scrub blood out of a stranger's sheets and pretend she didn't see the bruises on the girl who slept there. The room hushed. I learned early that some women clean more than homes. They clean shame. They mop silence. She told the story of Aubrey, not naming names, but painting the emotion. A child bleeding for the first time, afraid. A woman blamed for helping. I didn't set out to be brave. I just refused to let someone feel alone the way I once did. Applause rose, not polite, but reverent, real. After the summit, a young woman approached. My name's Tanya. I had a teacher like you once. No one listened to her either, but she changed my life. Elena smiled gently.
Then you carry part of her forward.
Later, Elena received a letter. Dear Miss Elena, you don't know me, but I'm one of the girls from the group you started. I used to think bleeding made me dirty. Now I think it makes me strong. Thank you for making us feel seen. Love, Kiara. That evening, she walked to the hospital. Aunt Delilah was awake, sitting up. You on the news yet? Not yet. Better hurry. I want to brag before I go. They laughed, fingers intertwined. You know, Delilah said, I used to pray you'd find your place. I didn't know it would be standing on a stage with all those people clapping. I didn't either, Elena whispered. But I'm glad you did. Outside the hospital window, a single star flickered to life. Elena realized she wasn't lost anymore. She was home. In her truth, in her work, in her worth. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend when Elena's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Miss Elena Rodriguez? This is Detective Collins with Metro Police. I need to ask you questions regarding a case involving your former employer, the Harrington family. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of case? Assault. We received an anonymous letter urging us to reinvestigate your termination. The next morning, Elena sat in a gray-walled room across from Detective Collins. Can you walk me through the events? Elena told him everything. The blood, the slap, the dismissal, her pleas. Who do you think sent the letter? She asked. Collins looked at her. It was signed anonymously, but the handwriting matched a submission belonging to Miss Aubrey Harrington. Giton. Elena's breath caught. Aubrey. That evening, Richard and Madison sat in their living room. I got a call from the department, Richard said flatly. Madison already knew. She'd seen Aubrey's phone, read the letter draft. I hit that woman, Madison said quietly. I watched you do it, he answered. They sat in silence until Madison said, I think we need to tell the truth. No more spin. Richard nodded. It's time. 3 days later, a headline appeared. Harrington family faces scrutiny after former employee alleges assault. The journalist had done her homework. Interviews, records, community testimonials. At the community center, girls passed the article around. You're famous now. I'm still just Elena, she replied. But something had shifted. Strangers approached her on the street with quiet words of support. Online, backlash brewed, but Elena read none of it. She focused on her aunt, her girls, her truth. Late one night, there was a knock. A woman in a business suit held a thick envelope. Miss Rodriguez, I'm with the Victim Advocacy Alliance. There may be grounds for civil action. Elena took the envelope. This wasn't revenge. This was responsibility, to herself and others who would never get the chance to speak. She reached for her phone and called Aubrey. I got your letter, the one you sent to police. Aubrey hesitated. I didn't want you to get hurt again, but I also couldn't pretend anymore. You were brave, braver than I ever expected. Are you going to sue them? I don't know yet. But if I do, it won't be for revenge. It'll be for the next girl. At the Harrington estate, tensions had grown. Madison walked the hallway, scrolling through headlines. Several women from her social circle had reached out privately, confessing their own moments of cruelty. That afternoon, the Harringtons sat with Aubrey at the kitchen table. We're not angry with you, Madison said gently. I didn't do it to punish you, Aubrey said. I did it because someone had to tell the truth. We know, Madison whispered. And we're listening now? Elena taught me what it means to stand for something. I want to be like her. Madison's eyes filled with tears. So do I. Elena sat across from lawyer Janet Moore in a modest office. You don't strike me as someone who wants a courtroom battle, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve justice. I'm not here to destroy anyone, but I want the truth to live outside my head. We can begin with a demand letter. If they don't respond, then we decide how loud you want to be. Elena leaned back.
I think I'm done being quiet.
2 days later, Richard received the letter. He read it 3 times before calling Madison. She's not asking for much. Compensation, formal apology, funding for a program in her name. Madison looked out the window.
We took so much from her. This is her asking for something back.
I know. Let's give it to her. All of it. And more. Elena received a formal letter on Harrington Foundation letterhead. Miss Rodriguez, we acknowledge and accept the truths of your experience. Our family failed you. Please accept this formal apology along with full compensation. We are launching the Elena Rodriguez Initiative for the education and protection of domestic workers and young girls. You were right to speak. We were wrong to silence you. Elena read the letter twice, then wept, not from pain, but relief. The next day, Elena stood in front of the community center as a small crowd gathered. Behind her, a new banner unfurled. The Elena Rodriguez Initiative, for those who care in the shadows. Gloria hugged her tight.
You did this.
No, Elena said softly.
We did.
Aubrey was there too, standing beside Madison. As the ribbon was cut and applause rose, Elena looked around at the faces of young girls watching her. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of theirs. The sun filtered through the community center's reading room windows. Elena stood down, holding a worn paperback, looking at 15 girls from different schools and neighborhoods. Why do you think Zora Neale Hurston wrote this story? She asked gently. A girl named Kiara raised her hand. Because she wanted people to know what it felt like to be invisible, but still be someone. Elena smiled. That's exactly right. She opened the book and began reading aloud, every word soaked in lived experience. The girls leaned forward, eager not to miss a single line. Later, Gloria joined her in the hallway. You're magic in that room. I'm just telling stories. Exactly. And that's how the world changes. That Friday night, Elena visited Aunt Delilah at the hospice center. The chemo had been replaced by comfort care. Her body was frail, but when she heard Elena's voice, she smiled. You still talking to those girls? Every week. Good. Then I can go in peace. Elena squeezed her hand. Not yet. I still need you to see what we're building. Delilah opened her eyes one last time. Then build it fast. The next morning, Delilah was gone. The funeral was small but warm. Elena stood at the altar with a simple bouquet. My aunt raised me with hands that had every reason to be bitter, but chose tenderness instead. She taught me that quiet people can change loud rooms, that kindness isn't weakness, that healing isn't always about forgetting. Sometimes it's about remembering and choosing to love anyway. Back at the community center, the girls surprised Elena with a mural on the back wall, a giant tree with roots made of books, branches made of hands, and blossoms shaped like hearts. At the center was a silhouette of a woman, head held high, one arm reaching down to lift another. Above it, the housekeeper who built a home for all. Kiara stepped forward. You didn't just tell us stories. You made us believe our own were worth telling. That night, Elena opened her journal. Delilah is gone, but she's everywhere. In my hands when I wipe a tear, in my voice when I tell a hard truth. I thought justice would look like a courtroom, but maybe it looks like a classroom, or a mural, or a girl raising her hand without fear. Nearly 2 months later, Elena still reached for her phone to call Delilah. Tonight the ache was heavier. The girls had started letters we never sent, writing to people they never had the chance to confront, forgive, or thank. Elena picked up a pen. Dear Madison, I wish I'd had the courage to tell you I wasn't trying to hurt your daughter. I was trying to help her.
Even after you hit me, I still cared. But mostly I wish you had seen me. Not the help, just a person who loved that little girl. You broke something in me, but you also lit a fire. So thank you, because from the worst part of my story came the best chapter of my life. She folded it, then opened another page. Dear Delilah, you were right. They did come back to say sorry. Not with perfect words, but with actions. The girls painted a mural, named a library shelf after you. You always said I had something more than hands made for cleaning. I'm finally starting to believe it. I miss you every single day. Love, Elena. The following week brought news. The Elena Rodriguez initiative had been nominated for a statewide humanitarian award with a potential $100,000 grant. Gloria burst in when she heard. We did it, Elena whispered. I didn't think we were on their radar. Honey, they've been watching. The world is watching. The ceremony was held in a large theater. Elena had borrowed a navy dress and pinched shoes. As she stepped onto the stage, she saw familiar faces. Kiara, Aubrey, Mrs. Whitaker, even Madison and Richard in the back. I used to think my story didn't matter, Elena began, that it was too small, too ordinary. But stories like mine are everywhere, and they deserve to be heard. Applause rose like a tide. After the ceremony, Madison approached. She looked older, not in years, but in the way a person looks after seeing themselves clearly. I read your letter, Madison said quietly. Elena blinked. How? Aubrey found it. She asked if she could share it with me. I didn't write it for you to read. I know, but I'm glad I did. Thank you for being better than I was, for not letting it turn you cold. Elena looked at her with calm understanding. I couldn't afford to be cold. Too many girls would have frozen. That night, Elena found a box on her doorstep. Inside were dozens of handwritten letters from girls, parents, strangers, former domestic workers. Everyone ended the same way. You made me feel seen. She sat reading until sunrise. I see you too, she whispered. The morning after the awards ceremony, Elena stood on the community center porch with coffee, watching the sun stretch over rooftops. Today, she was returning to the Harrington estate, not as an employee, but as a guest. The invitation had come as a handwritten card. Dear Elena, Aubrey has asked to host a dinner in your honor. We would be privileged if you joined us. She rang the bell. A different butler answered, opening the door with a courteous nod. They're expecting you, Miss Rodriguez. Madison greeted her at the staircase, eyes careful, reverent. Thank you for coming. I came for Aubrey, Elena replied. Aubrey jumped up from the couch. Elena! They embraced tightly. Dinner was modest, roasted chicken, fresh greens, cornbread, no servers, just family-style dishes. Aubrey led the conversation, telling Elena about her leadership club, her volunteer plans, her scholarship fund idea. She's been writing speeches, Madison said with a soft smile. After dessert, Aubrey disappeared upstairs. Madison finally spoke. I've seen the footage. Elena's brow furrowed. Footage? From the hallway cameras. The night I accused you. It shows Aubrey crying, you comforting hello. Me hitting you. I had it deleted that same night. I was ashamed. Now I've restored it. I gave it to the Victim Advocacy Alliance. You can do what you want with it. Elena stood, unsure what to feel. Why now? Because hiding it never healed me. It only protected my pride. Aubrey ran up behind Elena as she left. Wait. I wanted to give you this. A small envelope with a drawing, Elena at the community center surrounded by girls with wings. Aubrey smiled. You gave us flight. Elena knelt and kissed her forehead. You were never meant to crawl. The following week passed with shifting tides. Though the mansion stood unchanged outside, the atmosphere within was different. Aubrey was still quiet, but something had begun to mend. She made her bed without being told, wrote daily in the notebook Elena had gifted her. One Sunday morning, Madison found Richard holding an envelope, the one Elena had left sealed, addressed "To whom it may concern." He read aloud, "You trusted me with your daughter's mornings and bedtimes. I gave her my time, my gentleness, my care. I need your growth. Aubrey deserves to become a woman without shame." I've been thinking about what she said. "About fear," Madison said. "Maybe it's time we stop repeating the silence." Elena stood by Aunt Delilah's bedside. The machines beeped steadily. "We'll start chemo tonight," Nurse Gloria whispered. That evening, Elena opened her notebook. "Today I chose not to disappear. Today I remembered why I stay soft, and I am not finished." 2 days later, Aubrey received a plain envelope with her name. Inside was a letter and a gold chain with a crescent moon. "Dear Moonlight Girl, you're stronger than you know. Never be ashamed of your body. It's yours. It's sacred. Keep growing. Always rooting for you." Aubrey wore the necklace every day after that. Richard made a call to a community center. "I'd like to sponsor a girls' health program." Madison emailed Aubrey's school about emotional education curriculum. That night, Aubrey touched her charm. "Can we take a new picture? This on. He doesn't feel like us anymore." The camera clicked, and for the first time in a long time, there was real laughter in the house. In her quiet room, Elena sat by the window watching the moonrise. Her phone buzzed. "She wears it every day. Thought you'd want to know." Elena smiled and leaned back, letting the silence hold her. Not like punishment, but like peace. The silence was hers, and it was full of echoes she could live with. One Saturday morning, Elena received a letter with no return address. "Dear Elena, I owe you more than an apology. You were the only one who saw my daughter clearly. There's a dinner next Friday, not as a servant, as a guest. With regret and hope, Madison." The invitation wasn't just to dinner. It was to dignity. Friday arrived under golden sunset. Elena wore her modest navy dress. The butler greeted her. "Miss Rodriguez, welcome back." Not the help. Miss Rodriguez. The dining room was simple. Wooden name cards, an empty seat for Elena at the head opposite Richard. Aubrey beamed. Madison stood nervously. Over dessert, Aubrey asked, "Elena, can I visit your aunt?" "Why?" "Because you were there for me. Maybe I can be there for someone too." Elena's throat tightened. She'd like that. Later, Madison walked Elena to the door. "I don't expect us to become friends, but I hope this can be a beginning. I don't need a beginning, but I'll accept a better ending." Elena returned to the Whitakers with something shifted inside her. She hummed while sweeping, slept better. That week, she applied to volunteer at the community center. When the coordinator called, "We're looking for women who've been through fire and still choose kindness." "Then I'm yours." A new program began, funded by the Harrington Foundation, inspired by a story almost silenced. Teenage girls gathered weekly to write, speak, and bleed in ways the world had told them to hide, on the whiteboard, tender, brave, unbroken. Sometimes that's enough. Elena stood at the hospital bus stop, coffee cup cold in her hands. Delilah had finished her 3rd chemo round, weak but spirited. "I'm not leaving yet. God still has gossip to hear." Her phone buzzed. "Aubrey, can I visit your aunt? I got her a blue scarf." Elena typed, "She loves blue, especially on brave girls." Another message. "I'm doing my project on women who change the world. I picked you." Elena closed her eyes, tears coming. "You hear that, Delilah? Your niece is changing the world. That evening, Elena volunteered at the community center for the first time. Teenage girls sat in a circle as Gloria introduced her. "This is Elena Rodriguez." A girl asked, "Why'd you stop working for rich people?" Elena looked at the young eyes watching. "Because someone needed to learn how to be a mother, and someone else needed to remember she was a daughter." They wrote, then read aloud. Shaky, angry, beautiful, broken, but all true. Elena realized she wasn't healing alone anymore. Walking home under street lamps, Elena passed a man hunched on a bench. "Sir, are you all right?" Weathered face, bloodshot eyes. "Lost my job. Wife left. Got nothing." Elena sat beside him. "I felt like that too." She pulled out a granola bar and $5. "It's enough for a hot drink." "Thank you. We're never as alone as we think." That night, Elena wrote, "Today I gave what little I had. Maybe healing isn't about getting back what you lost. Maybe it's about giving away what you've gained. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm becoming." The email came Sunday morning. Speaking opportunity, Women's Voices Summit. Theme, the strength of softness. Elena stared at the screen. Her, a former housekeeper. She clicked reply. "Yes, I'll do it." The ceremony was in a repurposed train station. Elena stepped onto the stage, blinded by lights, then focused on the faces. "When I was 8, I watched my mother scrub blood out of a stranger's sheets and pretend she didn't see the bruises." The room hushed. "I learned early that some women clean more than homes. They clean shame." She told Aubrey's story without names. A child bleeding, afraid. A woman blamed for helping. "I didn't set out to be brave. I just refused to let someone feel alone the way I once did." Applause rose, reverent and real. Later, a young woman approached. "I had a teacher like you once. No one listened to her either, but she changed my life." Elena smiled. "Then you carry part of her forward." A letter arrived. "Dear Miss Elena, I used to think bleeding made me dirty. Now I think it makes me strong. Thank you for making us feel seen. Love, Kiara." Elena folded the letter into her journal. She didn't need trophies. She had this. At the hospital, Aunt Delilah sat up, stronger. "You on the news yet?" "Not yet." "Better hurry. I want to brag before I go." They laughed, fingers intertwined. "I used to pray you'd find your place," Delilah said. "I didn't know it would be on a stage with all those people clapping." Outside the window, a star flickered. Elena wasn't lost anymore. She was home, in her truth, her work, her worth. Elena's phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Miss Rodriguez? Detective Collins, Metro Police. I need to ask about your former employer, the Harrington family." "What kind of case?" "Assault. We received an anonymous letter urging reinvestigation." In the gray-walled room, Elena told everything. The blood, the slap, the dismissal. "Who sent the letter?" Collins looked at her. The handwriting matched a submission from Miss Aubrey Harrington. Elena's breath caught. Aubrey. That evening, Richard and Madison sat in silence. "I got a call from the department," Richard said. Madison had seen Aubrey's phone, the letter draft. "I hit that woman. I watched you do it. I think we need to tell the truth. No more spin. It's time." The headline appeared. Harrington family faces scrutiny after former employee alleges assault. At the community center, girls passed the article around. "You're famous now." "I'm still just Elena." Strangers approached with quiet support. Elena focused on her aunt, her girls, her truth. A woman in a business suit brought an envelope. "Victim Advocacy Alliance. there may be grounds for civil action. This wasn't revenge. This was responsibility. Elena called Aubrey. I got your letter to police. I didn't want you hurt again, but I couldn't pretend anymore. You were brave. If I sue, it won't be for revenge. It'll be for the next girl. Elena sat with lawyer Janet Moore. You don't strike me as wanting a courtroom battle, but you deserve justice. I want the truth to live outside my head. We can start with a demand letter. If they don't respond, then we decide how loud you want to be. Elena leaned back. I think I'm done being quiet. Richard received the letter, read it 3 times. She's not asking for much. Compensation, apology, funding for a program. Madison looked out the window. We took so much from her. Let's give it to her, all of it, and more. Elena received the Harrington Foundation letterhead. We acknowledge the truths of your experience. Our family failed you. Please accept this formal apology and full compensation. We are launching the Elena Rodriguez Initiative for domestic workers and young girls. You were right to speak. Elena read it twice, then wept, not from pain, but relief. Elena stood before the community center as the crowd gathered. A banner unfurled. The Elena Rodriguez Initiative for those who care in the shadows. Gloria hugged her. You did this? No, we did. Aubrey was there, standing beside Madison. As the ribbon was cut, Elena looked at the young girls watching. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of theirs. In the reading room, Elena held a worn paperback, looking at 15 girls. Why do you think Zora Neale Hurston wrote this story? Because she wanted people to know what it felt like to be invisible but still be someone. Elena smiled. Exactly right. She read aloud, every word soaked in experience. The girls leaned forward, not wanting to miss anything. That Friday, Elena visited Aunt Delilah at hospice. Her body frail, but she smiled when she heard Elena's voice. You still talking to those girls? Every week. Good. Then I can go in peace. Not yet. I still need you to see what we're building. Then build it fast. The next morning, Delilah was gone. At the funeral, Elena stood with a simple bouquet. My aunt chose tenderness over bitterness. She taught me that quiet people can change loud rooms, that healing isn't about forgetting. Sometimes it's about remembering and choosing to love anyway. The girls surprised Elena with a mural, a tree with book roots, hand branches, heart blossoms. At the center, a woman reaching down to lift another. Above it, the housekeeper who built a home for all. You didn't just tell us stories, Kiara said. You made us believe our own were worth telling. That night, Elena wrote, Delilah is everywhere, in my hands when I wipe tears, in my voice when I tell hard truths. I thought justice would look like a courtroom, but maybe it looks like a classroom, a mural, a girl raising her hand without fear. Elena picked up her pen. Dear Madison, I wish you had seen me, not the help, just a person who loved that little girl. You broke something in me, but you also lit a fire. From the worst part of my story came the best chapter of my life. She folded it, then wrote, Dear Delilah, you were right. They did come back to say sorry. The girls painted a mural, named a library shelf after you. You always said I had something more than hands made for cleaning. I'm finally starting to believe it. News came. The Elena Rodriguez Initiative was nominated for a humanitarian award with a potential $100,000 grant. At the theater ceremony, Elena saw familiar faces, Kiara, Aubrey, even Madison in the back. I used to think my story didn't matter, but stories like mine are everywhere, and they deserve to be heard. After, Madison approached. I read your letter. Thank you for being better than I was, for not letting it turn you cold. I couldn't afford to be cold. Too many girls would have frozen. Elena found a box on her doorstep. Dozens of letters from girls, parents, strangers. Everyone ended. You made me feel seen. She read until sunrise. I see you too. Elena returned to the Harrington estate as a guest. The butler. They're expecting you, Miss Rodriguez. Madison greeted her. Thank you for coming. I came for Aubrey. Dinner was modest. Family-style dishes, no servers. Aubrey led conversation about her leadership club, volunteer plans. Madison spoke. I've seen the footage from that night. I had it deleted, but now I've restored it. I gave it to the Advocacy Alliance. Why now? Because hiding it never healed me. As Elena left, Aubrey ran up with a drawing. Elena surrounded by girls with wings. You gave us flight. Elena knelt, kissed her forehead. You were never meant to crawl. The week passed with quiet transformation. Aubrey wrote daily. Richard called community centers. Madison emailed schools about emotional education. Elena stood by the window, watching moonrise. Her phone buzzed. She wears it every day. Thought you'd want to know. Elena smiled, leaning back. The silence was hers now, full of echoes she could live with. One morning, Elena received an email. The statewide Women's Voices Summit wants you as keynote speaker. She clicked reply. Yes. At the ceremony, Elena stepped onto the stage. I learned early that some women clean more than homes. They clean shame. I stand here not as a hero, but as proof that soft things endure, that kindness echoes longer than cruelty. A young woman approached after. I had a teacher like you once. She changed my life. Then you carry part of her forward. Elena received a letter. I used to think bleeding made me dirty. Now I think it makes me strong. Thank you. The girls surprised her with a mural, a tree with a woman reaching down to lift another. You made us believe our own stories were worth telling. Elena wrote, Justice isn't always a courtroom. Sometimes it's a shelf, a name remembered, a girl allowed to speak. I was the help, and now I'm the history.